Does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about before I close out this fairly short show this evening?
I just like to say, John, I think that bridge is great. And just the idea of tackling something with a laser cutter would intimidate me, much less, trying to actually design something that's serviceable and works. I think I'm looking forward to seeing how it turned out next week.
Thank you. One of the things that it was kind of sort of difficult was to get it to fit into the space that I had to work with. Since I had the 2-inch foam on each side, I had to recalculate everything from to make it from 24 inches down to 20 inches and then have it to fit. And then next week I'll show where I use my CNC machine with some blocks of foam that I carved in. It looks like blocks of actually blocks in there. And I have little pads where the bridge abutment or the bridge structure comes down, and they're pretty close to the middle of those little pads. And I use some, well, I'll go into that next week about some of the other stuff I did, but
well, how did, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get started in all this automation? I've never asked any of the model manufacturers what made them buy a laser cutter and get into the business, but you're doing it, I assume, for yourself, not for a business.
Right. Well, what it is I had I have 2 CNC machines. I have a bigger one. It's a 2 foot by 2 foot that I use for wood hobby projects. Well, I originally bought this second one, but it was kind of a cheap knockoff, so it wasn't really good for woodworking stuff. Through the YouTube or through Facebook, I hooked up with JTech lasers, and they have just the laser module that you could mount on the CNC machine. So I took the motor off and threw it away, put the laser on there, and then I started using the same software that I designed on my big CNC. And I just, you have to, there's a lot of adjustments for the laser. So I'm working through that with my software. But there's so many things that you can make with the laser. And, granted, it's not a 60-watt laser, it's only a 7-watt. So it's not like I can buzz through 1/4-inch plywood or stuff like that. I mean, I'm limited to about 3 millimeter basswood. And once you figure out the design, you put it on the laser, it just lasers it out, and then you've got the pieces. There are some other pieces I'm thinking about as far as doing they have like storefronts and stuff like that. Instead of having the whole building, you just have the front of the building. So I can do the framework for that, and then I can do the modeling for the clapboard or whatever on the outside of that. So it gives me a base to work with, and then I can model up off of that.
Wow, that's fascinating. You make it sound so simple, and I guess you've already gone into it with woodworking projects, but just I envy you being able to just reach the point where you can think of something, either design it or find a design you like and then make it. Well,
the other when I first started, I had it was a real cheap CNC machine. It was only 12 by 12. It was made out of plastic, and I'd always wanted, on my layout, I'm trying to do a coal mine. So if you got a coal mine, you got to have a rotary dumper. So I searched and searched and searched for plans for a rotary dumper. Well, I found this one company that had a lot of pictures of how they build their rotary dumper. So I figured out approximate sizes to fit my S-gauge layout. So then I sat down to my software, started drawing, the CAD of what I thought it looked like. And then I used my CNC to cut it out. And at some point, right now it's basically sitting because I need to create the base for it. But right now it is actually you can rotate it. It'll have the lockdown fingers that lock the car down, but it's stuff like that is, for a beginning modeler to sit down and design something like that. They say, well, I can't do that. Well, you can if you sit down and look at what you're trying to design, and then you use your scale rulers and stuff to actually make things, scale it up or down to fit your scale. It might not be perfect, but some of the stuff I've designed so far looks pretty good.
Wow.
I mean, my second bridge, it's a curved, it's a curved bridge, and you'll see pictures of that next week. But now that one, that's totally scratch built. There was no lasering in that whatsoever. So that was a fun project, because that I still have the 2-foot gap, but now it's a curved gap. So when you're building that bridge, if you look at the designs on a real bridge, they aren't curved, they're straight, and then angle, straight, angle, straight, angle, straight. So then I took the quote I-beams that go around the outside. Now that's all curved, but it's fit to the curve straight of the inner. And again, it might not be to some MMR's scale drawings and whatever, but you know what? In the long run, it looks great. I have the wood decking that goes on it, just like the pictures I've seen, and then my track lays on that. And I think it all boils down to what looks good to you. I've had guys in our group, our S-Gauge group, and Randy Boscher's in our group, and he even said it looked good. So I felt pretty good then.
Well, that's kind of a mantra of all of our modeling, is as long as it looks good to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And not only that, you also have to start somewhere. I mean, it's like, there's a time that, when sometimes you have to pick up a toy train, get that running around and all that before you get into the, decide to actually build kits and stuff like that. So you got to start. So you have to start somewhere.
And then with S-Gauge, you always don't have that option. So you just have to wing it.
Absolutely.
Come on, with that scale, you can get all kinds of stuff.
Maybe you have it all. That's why I can't find it.
Well, I got quite a bit of it, I'll tell you.
Greg, if I could add a couple comments, I'm lined up to do something on laser cutting a little later. But basically what I tell people is it's drawing rectangles and thinking in layers.
Well, through talking to different manufacturers, I know that there's more to it than just, the laser cuts out a window hole. You can get into the different layers for doing etching and doing embossed lines and stuff like this. But I'd love to see, some tutorials on laser cutters and stuff like that. Not that I'm in the market for one, but I just find them interesting and find how they're used in manufacturing of kits.
One of the things that I'm going to stress to you is that there might be a laser available to you. I don't know where you're located, but our local community college has a place you can go, and you pay a few bucks and you can sign up and use their laser cutters and their 3D printers and their machines.
Yeah, we do have a maker place.
Makerspace,
not
so,
that far from me.
They probably even have the CAD software that they're going to run on their laser. So, but I showed this car last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little that I'm an S scaler too. So, we don't have a lot of wooden gondola cars available in S scale. So I wanted a couple. So I just drew them up on the laser. And I mean, really, it's just rectangles. Oh, thank you. It's a rectangle and it's got rectangular lines for the boards, and I cut out these things have a shape to them on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut that out. That was a lot easier. You can see the you know, the side sill has a shape to it.
Yeah.
And I cut out that, you know, that what's the hopper on the bottom. You know, I just drew that. And I mean, that was one of the most complicated things I've ever cut, because if you unfold that, it's kind of like, you know, like a rectangle and 12,
Yeah.
4 parallelograms. So, but it was, you know, you just do algebra and you can work it out. It's not that bad. So
Yeah.
I think you need trigonometry to make that base.
it's, yeah, I guess, but you know, it's really like a lot of A² B² stuff, but it's really not that bad.
It's
And then,
not
you know, I
that-
mean, I've done all kinds of fun stuff. I did, you know, I've done buildings, I've done wooden, you know, like wooden passenger cars and stuff like that. So it's just, like I said, you know, a wooden passenger car is just a bunch of lines that you scribe in the wood, and you kind of have to play with your laser and see, you know, how fast do I run it? How hot do I run it to scribe, to burn, to cut, whatever, you know. But I mean, I've cut plastic, I've cut wood, I've cut laser board, which is a laser impregnated paper.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of stuff, and it's really, like I said, it's thinking in layers and drawing rectangles.
I think it's
Well-
fascinating that we have right here in this show, the old school way and the new school way of building kits, whether they're cars or buildings. And that just shows how expandable this hobby is, and how many areas of it you can get involved in.
You know what the easy part is know somebody, get a young kid who's got one of those maker space, and go and talk to him, because they're always looking for projects, and he'll help you and he'll show you. For myself, when I lived in Southern Ontario, I would drive over to Fast Tracks, and Tim would send home his 2 employees, because I would tie him and the lasers up designing goofy things. And he gave me he put it on my laptop, a $10,000 CAD program. You don't need all that for home stuff, but he used it commercially. And I would come home and I would sit and draw stuff. And finally I said, screw that. And I would take a paper dimensions over, and he would draw it in about 5 minutes. We cut it out on the laser. We dry fit the stuff. We'd make a few adjustments, and the kit was done. So people who know how to do the drawings and that's the key.
Well, Clark, you remind me of something that happened with a very good friend of mine, Jim Koshin, who was in Florida and had some kits manufactured under his name. He's not with us anymore, but a couple of years ago, he was trying to build a water tank, and he would work with Jeff Grove to get all of the laser cutting done, but he had trouble designing the roof for this water tank. He just couldn't get everything to work in laser cutting. Well, he went to his grandson, who was about 12 at the time, and his grandson brought him into his 3D printer that he had at home. 15 minutes later, he came to him and said, "You mean like this, Grandpa?" And it was perfect.
So easy, a 5-year-old can do it. Somebody get a 5-year-old.
It's like, if, you know, a lot of us, you know, we're afraid to touch the keyboard of the computer because we're going to get that blue screen of death. And otherwise, you get the kid from next door and you go, "Can you fix that?" Yeah, mister, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, I just found out the other day that my wife's niece's husband is giving me a 3D printer this weekend for free.
Oh,
So that's another toy to play with.
Yeah. But
see, now that's something that I am interested in, possibly at home, and I'm finding out more and more about them, but it's a big leap for me because I've done everything with knives and files so far.
yeah, well, but that's fine. But oh my God, it's such the rabbit hole to learn how to use it.
That's what scares me.
How much? I mean, you look
And
at-
not to learn how to use it, but you know, so many of us, once we get it in a hobby, it's like it becomes all engrossing, and pretty soon, you know, I don't want 3D printing to take over as my hobby.
Well, as Tim once told me, when you have a laser printer, it becomes the hammer. And everything, you know, when you got a hammer, you can fix anything.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you know, when you're trying to cut balsa wood or even basswood, if you go the wrong way on the grain, it just sort of goes off however you want to.
Yeah.
With the laser, man, it just takes it right where you want it to go, and that's it.
The only problem, and we've sort of talked about that here before, and I think Bob mentioned it in his kit build, or somebody did. The problem is when the laser cuts it out, you do go across the grain
Yeah.
the wrong way, and then it becomes a weaker piece, or it doesn't look good when you stain it. Painting is fine, but staining is an issue.
This is an interlocking tower I made.
Yeah.
And, I've got little window inserts.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
story is, I came home and the window inserts weren't quite the right size. They're a little too big. And I thought, I can go and sand down all those window inserts, but that looks like a hell of a lot of work. I just went in the next day and cut new window inserts. I just made them a little smaller and just cut a whole new set.
Oh yeah.
It was so much easier than sanding them. I'm like, why am I
Oh,
going
yeah.
to waste my time sanding them?
Yeah.
So, and then I found out now that the roof is a little too big. So I got to go and cut a whole new roof for this one. So anyway, but I just put a new tube in my laser today. It's been down for 6 months and I'm really excited that I'm going to get it back working again, but it's not quite up to speed yet. So,
And that's why people say, well, how come it costs so much for a laser kit? Well, I got news for you. You got to cut the parts out. You got to test them. Oh, I'm a little wide here, or I'm a little, and then you got to adjust for the thickness of the wood. A little structure, and I've got this little structure that we use for a laser kit that we build in Mine of the Masters. And there's probably 15 hours in development and testing it to get it right. And, that takes time and money and effort and materials. So somebody's got to pay for it if you're a kit manufacturer.
Yeah, it's like when they talk about the cost of pharmaceuticals. Well, it's not the cost of manufacturing. It was all that expense in research and development.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to watch, I don't know, I think I posted in the chat last week, but you can go on YouTube and watch the Bar Mills layout or shop tour. See what they're doing. It's amazing. I mean, they got 5 lasers working all the time.
yeah, I don't do anything commercially really. I mean,
Hello, you're muted. You're muted.
I keep clicking the wrong button. My school, I was really lucky. My school bought me a $12,000 laser. So I didn't have to lay out the $12,000. And, so I don't do this commercially because I don't feel like it's fair for me to, I draw in my spare time for fun. And, like if my friend needed something, I'd cut him something, but I'm not trying to make kits because there's people out there trying to make a living. It's not really right for me to be stepping on them, so.
Well, that's like me. I mean, I had the opportunity to start a laser business, a build structure business, because I had about 15 laser kits already drawn and they worked and ready to go. But I have so many friends in the business that I was like, I'm not stepping on any toes. So.
Well, the nice thing is after all the development, then you just sit there and cut out kits, and so that's the nice thing about it is once you get it designed where you want it, then it's just a matter of churning them out.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is I don't want to write instructions.
Yeah.
That takes patience, and you got to come down to the lowest denominator of a model builder that you're going to get into, and man. And I've said this before, like even when Mine of the Masters, we gave them this laser kit and guys are opening the kits, and one guy sat there for 5 minutes. I said, what's the matter? He says, I don't know how to open the box. And I'm very serious.
Really?
And he looked at me like, can you help me? Like, I really don't know how to open the box. And it's like, oh boy. And
oh, Christmas at his house must be exciting.
ooh. But it is amazing. And I think it was paralysis rather than he couldn't physically open the box. I think it was paralysis, like, I'm not sure if I can do this, so I don't want to open the box.
Yeah.
But we got him through it, and he completed his little building, and he was happier. And he says, I think I could do this again. So.
That's a success.
Yep.
Well, I think that's, with scratch building and stuff, you just got to start and try something. If it doesn't work, throw it away and try something different.
Exactly. And people are afraid to fail sometimes.
That's exactly right.
And Martin,
Fear of failure.
yep, through the process of the AP or whatever, people go, oh, I'm not doing that. There's too much paperwork. Well, it's not really too much paperwork. They're just afraid of not doing it.
Yeah, it's more fear of failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I kind of had second thoughts about doing this bridge, but Jim encouraged me enough that I went ahead and went through with it. I mean, I figure if guys don't like it, oh well, it's my bridge. I'll build it the way I can and go from there.
Yeah, but you're trying something totally new, and you exposed yourself as well as your model, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I am picky about stuff and that, but I'm not gonna pick on somebody who's trying something. People who don't try stuff are the ones that should be picked on.
Well,
I think a lot of the comments aren't really aimed at picking on you, but I think a lot of it is they're trying to help you because they know that you're new at this and trying something new, and if they can give you some advice that may help you, I think that's part of what you're doing.
It's a gentle push.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not so gentle, and it can be, I know I've been accused of that already. But it's not that it's meant that way. It may just come out that way. But for most people, especially those who know me, they won't take it that way. But
well, I think for me, it's like coming into a group of MMRs, and I guess I was a little hesitant about everybody's going to point out their finger, say, "Oh, that looks like crap," or "Oh, that looks like crap. You could have done this, or you could have done that." But I'm happy with the results.
One thing
I think you should be. I mean, I couldn't do what you just did.
I think that one of the nice things about this particular part of the program is that one of the big things that you don't see beginning modelers don't realize is that a lot of the better modelers end up making 2 or 3 attempts a lot of times at various different components or sub-assemblies that we end up tossing, and we don't ever talk about those. And so people think that we just got everything together right on the first crack, and that's just not the case.
well,
So,
it's like,
so yeah, if you
gotta get the
3D print,
Carnegie Hall.
if you 3D print, you can't throw your mistakes away. You have to keep a bag of them for your humility and keep you humble. If
But it's like, how do you get the Carnegie Hall? Well, you practice. Well, I got news for you. Model railroading is the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, where have you been hiding out?
Behind the mute button.
Yeah. I spent 2 hours recording clinics today for the convention. No, he's not. He's not listening. He doesn't care.
He's still muted.
Actually, he's not muted. He's just
Okay.
can't hear him.
He's just ignoring.
No, I have a feeling his batteries gave out on his headset.
Ah,
That's possible.
So he's muted.
So he's muted and not hearing us.
What?
He's muted, just
Can you
not
hear me
through
now?
Zoom.
What?
Yes, we hear you now. We've been making fun of you, Phil.
maybe you still can't hear us.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear
Yes.
you now.
Yeah, I switched the microphone. That's good. No, that's good. I had to get both of them. Anyway, so this is what you're seeing is actually the wall for, I didn't put the slide, a picture up of the hotel. It's called the Commercial Hotel.
Oh,
And so as I started looking at putting the wall together, a couple of things that came up. The first was I really wanted the wall a little higher, and there's actually a trim piece up here at the top. So this corner is actually cut. I don't have a great picture of it. You'll see it later, but is actually cut to match the roof line. And then it's made up. And so on the inside, all the corner bracing and the board bracing is all done as printed pieces. This is the front deck framing underneath. And these are actually the posts. I think I showed you before the decking. It actually sits on these. These are the pier blocks. And so these are some of those pieces. This is actually the front. And so this is actually printing up the front pieces. And this actually doesn't show up very well the way this seemed to crop the pictures. This picture down here got really cropped. But anyway, the net is that this piece goes into the wall, and this piece is inside in the back, and those together glue up to form the top and the bottom. And when it gets done, basically all of the windows are framed. In the front, I'm doing all 3D printing because they're kind of unique and they have these really fine mullions. But unfortunately, that's taken the back seat. To the left is actually the kit I'm doing for the clinic, or not a kit, the building I'm doing for a clinic at the NMRA, and I have to finish it. So I've been focused on getting it painted. And then I did finish the other kit on the right. So that's the Blair line. So we'll talk about that later.